Hey you beautiful people, welcome back to a new video on our channel Read Travel Become. Podcasts are one of the best ways to feed your mind with knowledge. I am currently a graduate student and sometimes it's not possible for me to read a lot of books to constantly be updated with all the literature there is out there. For those who are new on my channel, hi, my name is Avdut and on this channel I talk about books, productivity and travel. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the podcasts which have changed my life. They say you are the food that you eat, right? Your body is the food that you eat. In the same way, if you are constantly updated with knowledge, if you're constantly feeding your brain with some knowledge, it really helps you to shape your belief systems and you have a sharp intellect. Podcasts are one of the best ways to do that. How do I do it? Whenever I'm traveling to campus, where I have to walk around 17 to 18 minutes to reach to campus, I listen to a podcast. 17 coming and going to the campus, 34 minutes, I'm getting a lot of information in my brain already. And if I'm listening at 1.5 times the speed, I'm actually getting content worth of 40 to 50 minutes. So basically, whenever you have these waiting times in your life, you can always listen to podcasts. Podcasts have changed my life in a lot of ways. In this video, I'm going to suggest 7 podcasts which will change your life. They're very different from each other and each podcast will teach you something very, very new and something very, very fresh. These are A-grade podcasts and I promise you would have a great time listening to them. Just start any of those podcasts and you are going to have a great time. I promise you that. So make sure you watch the video till the end. You may never know which thought or fact may resonate with you and change the course of your life. So let's get started. So the first podcast on this list is Unexplainable by Vox. It's not only the first on the list, but it's also one of my favorite. It's my favorite, not one of the favorite podcasts of all time. This podcast is created by the team Vox, who is a very popular media company on YouTube as well. They make amazing explanatory videos where they explain these difficult concepts in a very beautiful, elegant way. Their storytelling aspect is just chef's kiss. So this particular podcast is about unexplainable things like, do we have aliens? Is there extraterrestrial life? Why was Venus killed? What is telepathy? And prehistoric times. They have these amazing podcasts like how did dinosaurs sound like? And not only are these people discussing that over a podcast, but these people are actually bringing in a lot of knowledgeable people. Whenever they're talking about space and everything, they're calling in experts from NASA. And anything and everything they're talking it very, very scientifically. And the best part is it's not very technical. They're talking it in a very general way so that everybody can understand. Vox already creates a lot of beautiful videos, and I think in the podcast world as well, their podcast is one of the best podcasts I've listened to. It has got a very, very high quality and high knowledge value to it. So definitely recommended Unexplainable by Vox. Next on the list is a very, very quirky and very, very innovative podcast. The podcast is called Everything is Alive. So what happens here is there's an interviewer and there's an interviewee. But the twist here is the interviewee is an object which becomes alive, which has consciousness. If I have to give an example, let's say a bar of soap, a towel, a comb, a painting, a subway seat. What happens if these people get life, if these people are able to talk to you? So 2 people are having a conversation in this podcast. Absolutely mind-bending. They go into such depths of existentialism that you'll be shocked how deep that these people can go. Take an example. If a painting is able to talk to you in existential terms, where the painting says, I'm the reflection of somebody else and the other person is a reflection of me. So it's like a weird combination of we both exist because of each other. So these things are having existential talks like these. It's a very, very interesting concept. Watch out for an episode where the person is talking to the song stuck in his head. So the song is able to talk to this person and they are having a beautiful conversation of why this song is stuck in your head. It's a very quirky and innovative podcast. You would like it. It's not very long also. All the episodes are, I think, 25 to 30 minutes long, and if you listen to it like 1.5 times, you can get done very easily. Very, very interesting podcast. I love their innovative nature and out of the box thinking. So that is why I highly recommended Everything is Alive. Next is the podcast which is like the blockbuster podcast. No podcast list of anybody's recommendation is complete without recommending this podcast, because it has been there for a really long time and it has still got a lot of quality content in it. You can listen to these pearls of wisdom any time of the day. I'm talking about the Tim Ferriss show, where Tim Ferriss invites a lot of titans from his industry, from any industry, where they have a beautiful, knowledgeable conversation. Very, very relaxing to hear. And the kind of questions that Tim Ferriss asks, I just love that guy. He has a lot of sensibility in asking questions. So he always asks the right question so that he gets the most value out of his guest. So yeah, you guys already might be knowing the Tim Ferriss podcast. So highly recommended. Next on the list is a different kind of a podcast again. I heard this podcast after Daksh Jindal, who is my friend and mentor. He had recommended this on his channel. The podcast is called Tales by the Fireside, and it has got basic bedtime stories. These stories are told for children, people and everyone. These stories are very universal in nature, and even if there's a specific audience, they mention that in their title. These stories are very, very relaxing and they help you to ease your mind, and these stories are especially useful if you want to sleep. So you can listen to these stories and sleep. They're very, very calming, relaxing. They've got a very quiet vibe to it, and they're very like fantasy world like stories. Tales by the Fireside. So very interesting podcast. If you want this kind of an experience where you want to ease your mind into something, you can definitely listen to this podcast. Next on the list is again a very, very dramatic podcast. It's called Business Wars. Again, a very popular one, and especially relevant for people like me. I'm pursuing a degree in engineering management, where I get to know these trends and how these strategies are formed by companies. Companies are in a constant battle with each other. If I have to give you example, Nike and Adidas, then there's Apple and Microsoft, Samsung, and these companies, TikTok versus Instagram. So Business Wars is a podcast which talks about this business war, Marvel versus DC. They've got for every topic they've got like 4 to 5 episodes, and it's very, very high production value. They put in these sound effects in between of door opening and water splashing, anything and everything. They give you a complete experience. It's a very high production podcast and very, very interesting, very, very well researched. They have dramatized a lot of things. I felt some companies I knew about, they have dramatized it a bit, but it seems like you're watching a show when you're listening to this podcast, and it definitely made me more aware of how companies operate and how companies strategize when they want to bring different products and fight with other companies in this world. Next on the list is a very scientific podcast. It's called the Huberman Lab. So Dr. Huberman is a professor at Stanford University. He's studying these neurobiology things of the brain, and he's got these episodes of each and every topic related to the brain. Let's say sleep, let's say good habits, let's say focus. How do we focus? How do we optimize focus? How do we optimize sleep? But the differentiating factor here is that it's extremely scientific. He goes into extreme depths of your subconscious and of your brain workings. So if you're someone who's interested in any of these things, you can definitely check this podcast out. I recently started listening to this. I'm listening to how do we optimize your sleep. So he's going into a lot of depth of how sleep works, what is a sleeping pattern, why do we sleep. He starts from there. So he goes into great depths. So if you're a person who likes to read something very extensively and go to the depths of things, this podcast is definitely for you. And his voice is amazing, by the way. He has a very calming voice, and you would like to listen to him when you are listening to his podcast. So yeah, definitely recommended. And the last on the list is again a story podcast. I am a story boy. I really like myself getting escaped into the world of stories. The last one is Stories from Mahabharata. Again, Mahabharata is one such epic which needs no introduction. Almost everybody knows the kind of experience that you get when you hear stories from Mahabharata, and especially this podcast which I'm listening to these days. It's got a very nice production value. I really like when the audio guys put in a lot of production value to their experiences. It gives you a different perspective. Like when you're imagining things, when you hear sound effects to that imagination, it gives you a complete new experience. Stories of Mahabharata is one such podcast where I got to know many small stories which I didn't know. I had read Mahabharata long back. I had read the Devdutt Patnaik version of Mahabharata, Jaya. But it's a good refresher to just keep on updating these snippets of stories, and they are great conversation starters. If you're talking with someone, you can just reference any story you heard on this podcast and just start a conversation and try to deep dive into what the mentality of people was when they were having this discussion. So yeah, Very nice podcast, very good feel good vibe, and always helps me to relax. These were the podcasts which have changed my life. You pick up any of these podcasts, listen to them. I guarantee you would like them, you would be hooked onto them because they provide you a lot of value. So yeah, that was the list, guys. Do let me know in the comment section what podcasts you guys listen to and what podcast you would recommend to our family here. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Do like the video if you found any value in this video, and also subscribe to my channel. Lots of interesting content is lined up. Thank you so much. That's all for this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.